Good evening, everyone. Welcome again to another episode of Between Two Priests. We have another clergy with us today. This is Deacon Julie Stegelmann. She is a deacon in the ELCA Church and a spiritual director and director of Pathways Retreat Center in Goshen. So, Julie, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
We're so excited. Both Father Joshua and I do group spiritual direction with Julie, and we want to share some of her insight with you all today. So I'd like to start, Julie, with just how did you come to this idea of spiritual direction, that it's something you wanted to do? Is this something that you've known your whole life? Or tell us about your story.
Sure. So I didn't know much about spiritual direction until I started seminary. And in seminary, we had an assignment where we needed to have a practice called spiritual friendship and start meeting with a spiritual friend. And this class was at that time called Personal Spirituality. And through this class, through meeting with a spiritual friend and learning about spirituality, I learned about the ministry of spiritual direction. That I always felt that throughout life, I really enjoyed like going out to coffee with people and getting to know them better and processing life together. And then through seminary, I found out that this was actually a calling and a ministry that I could participate in through the ministry of spiritual direction. So I went ahead and I got my degree, and then met together with others who were also trained in spiritual direction. And over time, we developed a retreat center, an idea, first of all, for retreat center, and then an actual real physical retreat center emerged. And our mission here at Pathways Retreat is to be a place of rest, reflection, and renewal with God. So that was kind of my journey of discovering this, that there's this ministry possible, to now having a space and a place, to receiving the education and the training, to now accompany and walk with others.
Great. So you mentioned Pathways, and Father Joshua mentioned it as well. Tell us more about what happens at Pathways. You gave us the mission, but what happens? What's the physical building like, the property, that kind of stuff?
So Pathways Retreat is a smaller retreat center. We are able to have, our maximum capacity is 20 people. We are a day retreat center for the most part. So groups can come away. We have 17 acres of walking trails and peace and creation. We have 2 labyrinths, which are their ways of walking that help us center and quiet. We have a cabin in the woods that people can use for personal retreat. And we have a small retreat house that groups gather in, and like you and Father Joshua come away for what we call inner soul retreats, full day retreats, where people get to tend their own soul in community with others. So we offer space here at Pathways Retreat along with spiritual companionship.
So what, if somebody says, why should I look for a spiritual director or spiritual companionship? And just to clarify, this isn't just for clergy, this is for everybody.
Correct. Yeah, people come to spiritual direction for a lot of different reasons. And the word direction can kind of seem too directive. So spiritual direction is really, it's a spiritual companionship ministry. And so people come perhaps they're experiencing a loss or grief in their life. They want to listen more fully to where is God in this experience, in my experience. And so a spiritual director is a trained listener that holds space. The person brings the agenda, and we hold space to listen carefully for the Spirit's movement and guidance and invitation, believing that the Spirit is alive and awake and inviting us in every part of our life. So people come for a lot of reasons, just to hold space to look at their life in a more intentional, loving way.
I know one of the things I've always noticed about whenever I go through spiritual direction, whether it's in a group as I do now with you all, or in my personal spiritual direction in seminary, my spiritual director was one of the nuns at the convent at Swanee, and I would often go in thinking, I've got nothing to talk about today, and that was a bold-faced lie that I told myself. But I would always leave feeling lighter, refreshed, renewed. Like, okay, I can do this. I'm not alone at this. And it was everything from, I don't feel like praying right now, to I'm really struggling with death and depression, and so this full gamut of stuff that the world may tell us, and there are many benefits to it. I'm also in therapy, that you may go to a psychiatrist or psychologist or therapist for. But we have to recognize that we are, in fact, spiritual beings. And having a spiritual companion, a spiritual friend, a spiritual director is a really beneficial and healthy part of our life as well. Sorry, that wasn't a question, that was a complete statement.
Well, it made me think of something. I don't know about you, Julie, but you know, I've talked to lay people who you know, they want to do something new in their faith life, or they want to find a new ministry, or they're just, what I've been doing doesn't seem to be working anymore, and spiritual direction would be a place where, like you said, you make space for those questions, but then you might leave with something to wrestle with, right? That something came up that, oh yeah, I've really been thinking about doing X, and I don't really think I can do X. And then out of the conversation comes, okay, what do you need to do to make X happen, right? Those kinds of things. And so you're not alone, but you still might have, you didn't answer all the questions, you know?
All this time I was looking for X, and
yeah,
the Holy Spirit was talking about Y.
Yeah.
We hold space to live into the questions rather than answering them. And so you get to live and hold and interact with the question, and trust that the Spirit allows what to emerge, the next yes, our next way to be. So I often ask directees that come at the end of the session, I say, so tell me, what has shimmered for you? What do you feel like you want to pick up and hold most closely to your heart? What do you sense the Spirit inviting? And I give them space to sense into that. And then they often, you know, share. Might be I heard an invitation to rest. I heard an invitation to self-compassion. I heard an invitation to, so it's not an assignment. It's different. Spiritual direction holds space. We trust the Spirit is at work, even when we're not. And so we just hold space for the Spirit, and trust that what is needed does emerge. And then one thing, Father Joshua, that you said, I delight in seeing people. I feel like after they leave, there's like a blessing, a sense of being blessed. And I see a lightness, I see a grounding, an ability to, hey, I can interact with life. I have some of the inner resources to interact and show up to my life. So that's always a blessing to me, to see somebody leave more grounded, more awake, more alive to the presence of God.
A lot of times we meet once a month, and a lot of times those 4 weeks can feel like you're just walking through a desert. And then suddenly you stumble upon this well, and you get a good drink and wash your face and sleep. And then you can go on the next 4 weeks.
With new inner resources, with resources that are there, but that do take a space to be able to notice, see, pay attention. It helps us slow down a bit in our lives so that we can notice what is there, what is given.
We might have good intentions in our everyday life, like, okay, I'm gonna do devotions every morning, and I'm gonna make space for God every morning, and so you create that discipline. You're doing it, but sometimes all the things that are coming up after that are in your brain, or you're just getting through it as fast as you can so that you can get to something else, or you're just so focused on the prayer itself that you're not really creating that space. And so for me, it's like, okay, I got stuff done I've been productive, things are good. Someone praised me for my sermon, so I'm not in a bad mood or whatever, but then I come away to Pathways, and it's all of a sudden, it's like, oh, I can breathe. I didn't realize that there was so much around me or in my head, because it's just daily life. And so now I can just kind of step aside from it, not get rid of it, but just step aside from it, breathe, think about it, refocus, refresh, renew.
We kind of provide like Sabbath space. It's that Sabbath space to come back home. And that does take space to do. And a lot of people find, great connection because we have the 17 acres of creation, and to be outside, walk the trails, sit on the benches, just, to really take in the piece of creation deep into one's being is a very helpful and lovely gift of Pathways Retreat as well.
And during the season of Lent, you have the Stations of the Cross out. And during the season of Easter, you have the Stations of the Resurrection out. So
we do.
Walk around, they can do that as well.
Pathways also offers a regular rhythm of prayer. So we have our weekly prayers that are Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And we have our monthly prayer rhythm. And then we have our seasonal prayers, like the Stations of the Cross and Stations of the Resurrection, that come during Holy Week and the Easter season.
And like you call and you set up, and there's reservations and stuff for guided direction and prayers and things like that. But the 17 acres is open. Anybody that wants to come down can park their car and just go and walk the labyrinth, and you don't have to call ahead, kind of thing, correct?
Correct. Yes, to use any of the outdoor space, you can just come, show up. There's no check-in, and dogs are actually welcome as well on leash. So people are able to bring their animals as long as you clean up after them. And yeah, so there's no check-in to use any of the outdoor space. To use the indoor space, you just call or get on our website and reserve a space, and then we get back to you if that space is available. And so.
And there is an outdoor latrine. I know that is something that a lot of people want to know about.
There is. It was closed for a period of time, but it is reopening. Yes. It's very hard to meditate when you have to use the restroom.
Sometimes you just have to let it go.
Exactly. And there are the retreat house can be unlocked, and there are 2 restrooms within the retreat house as well. And groups are able to rent out, if there's a small group or a book study group that wants to meet. And we, our capacity now during pandemic is 6 people inside, but we're at this point meeting with people outside until things settle and we, know we care about everyone's health concerns. So there is space to meet outside and hold the physical distancing guidelines.
So how would you normally start an individual spiritual direction time? What would you do to get it going? How would that be framed?
Mm-hmm. Well, I just met with somebody today for the first time. So there is what we call an initial session that we encourage people, if you are interested in spiritual direction, to interview your director. And so you come for an initial time and then you get to ask any of your questions. What is this? Who are you as the spiritual director? You want to know that your spiritual director is in their own peer supervision groups and receives their own spiritual direction. It's very important, and is caring for their own spiritual journey. And so you have an initial session and get to know and interview the director. Now, once somebody decides that they do want to come for spiritual direction and meet with me, my style is to always offer a time of centering. I feel like it takes time for us to just get in the room. So I do offer, I ask, would you just like silence? Would you like me to lead you in a meditation of centering? And so depending on what they desire, then I lead them in it. We either hold silence to enter the space, or I lead them in a guided meditation to kind of get there. And then open the space for, like you said, Father Joshua, you think you don't know what, or you think, I know I'm going to bring this, this, and this. And then you get there, settle in, and new things are emerging right there in the moment. Because where is the holy? Right in the moment. And so we give time and space to listen, pay attention, notice that, and then opportunity to share and listen.
Yeah.
How might somebody go about finding a spiritual director in their area? Are there resources for that?
There's Spiritual Directors International, SDI.org. And that is one source that people can use. You can also, we have a list of spiritual directors that we can connect you with. That Pathways has. Those are probably the main ways.
And here's the website for
Thank you.
SDI. And if you go to you find a spiritual companion, find a retreat center, find training programs, because we know that our lovely thing has happened, and our audience for Between Two Priests is not just Elkhart County or the Michiana area. So this is a resource that you can use and find somebody or more information wherever you are.
And just ask around to your other faithful people around you that, because someone's probably going to know somebody that they trust or enjoy using as a spiritual director. And I think for a lot of clergy, we often will do an ecumenical spiritual direction, right? They'll find someone outside of their colleagues to talk to, just so that there's no, difficulties, or I don't know what the right phrase is there, but ecumenically, anybody can do that. I've known people that have gone into the Roman Catholic Church to find a spiritual director, and for Mennonites, there's plenty of places that it's not just Lutherans or Episcopalians, it's across the board.
And religious communities are a good place to look for that too. Convents, monasteries, things like that. Is spiritual direction strictly Christian?
No. So spiritual direction transcends traditions. So you will see that on the SDI website. So there are spiritual directors from many different streams.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's truly companionship along the spiritual journey for what that means. So I've been steeped within the Christian tradition, but also walk with those outside or this tradition.
Yeah.
I did want to say too, everything, so in spiritual direction is confidential. So it would be in the same as a therapeutic session. And so people may say they come to me for spiritual direction, but I don't share like who comes to me for spiritual direction. So so everything is confidential and held in great care.
And Pastor Terry and I outed ourselves on that, so.
Right. Right.
And I guess that shows how much we trust you, right? That we tell people about that we're in this group, but we know that you're not going to share what happens within the group, right? That
right.
And
when it is groups, so if it's one-on-one spiritual direction, that's a different setting. But when it's groups, then there's a covenant within the group as well, that what is shared remains held in the heart of God, and it is not to be shared elsewhere.
Right. Mm-hmm. As an extrovert, as a person that's, loves to be with groups of people, loves to be going and doing all the time, being able to step back and have that space where someone is holding me accountable, right? Because I can say that I'm going to do that, but I don't necessarily do it. But if I have a person that I'm going to go to that holds me accountable and gives me that space and then reflects back some of the things I'm saying, or when I talk about what's bubbling up, saying, oh, that's interesting, tell me more about that, or whatever. It really helps you become quite a bit more self-aware, but then also, like we've been saying, aware of where the Spirit's moving in your life. So we were talking about earlier, when you begin a session in our group, you often would ask us to be quiet, shut our eyes, get comfortable, however we want to do that, and then just notice everything in our body, like physically what is going on in our body. And then when we come back, you often ask the question, what do you bring with you today? Right? Like, what baggage are you dragging along, or whatever? I know just in general that my stress tends to congregate right here or in my lower back, depending on what's going on. But then when you notice it, it helps you sort of relax it too. So it's a healthy thing. It's not just a spiritual thing. It's a healthy
thing. Right. Yeah, to use just the word, because really spiritual, I mean, everything's connected. Our mind, our body, our spirit, our intellect, our social context, everything is one.
Right.
And so spiritual direction tends to the fullness of our being, not just to some spiritual life. There to me there is no such thing. It's all it's the incarnational life, which is all one.
So you don't have to leave your intelligence at the door.
Correct. We don't leave our intellect, we don't leave our body, we don't leave our heart and emotional center. We try to access, we trust in all of those centers as fonts of wisdom and guidance and God alive in the fullness of our being.
And to continue with that, there is a lot of physical stuff that goes with it too. My posture, like laying down a lot. She has very comfy chairs that turn into lounge chairs. And last week for Between Two Priests, we were with Pastor Jess and did faith and art and drawing our feelings. And we've done, and I think Pastor Terry, you shared one of the ones that we did with spiritual direction.
I don't know if you remember, Julie. There it is.
Finger painting.
We were painting. Yeah.
And there are the physical aspects. So things like the painting, the bell ringing, lighting the candle, setting the candle, and it's one thing I love to do, that flame represents something for us and sets that moment and that space apart. So it is all connected. Getting up and walking around, taking a nap is one of my favorite parts of spiritual direction. Is taking.
So we do all day spiritual direction. This is
a full day retreat.
This is not into an hour.
So there's time for a nap in there. So there's lots of different ways that we've, pick a word, pick a feeling, pick a theme for your year. Lots of different ways we've sort of talked about it. We've reflected on an image. I think when the Stations of the Resurrection were done, we did some of those images, and they're very beautiful. So if you get a chance during Easter to go and see them. But so I'm gonna ask you two questions, and then we can talk about something else while you're thinking about it. So I'm kind of putting you on the spot. If someone wanted to just learn a little bit more about spiritual direction, is there something that they could read about it? Like, are there books or something? And then the second one I was thinking of is there a short meditation you could maybe lead us in to show people one of your meditations? We didn't ask this ahead of time for her, so I'm putting her on the spot. But I know you've been doing this a long time and you're an expert, so.
Well, yeah, I don't know about that, but yes, I would go to the SDI website. You can also go to our Pathways website, and we have under who we are or what we offer, it says spiritual direction. It's a service we offer, a ministry we offer, and so that also explains spiritual direction to read a little bit more.
Go ahead and share that.
There you go. There you go. What we offer down there, spiritual direction. That's actually my room. And why people might seek direction. So you can, that's a resource.
And the website is great. You can see where the different
walking paths, the labyrinths. Then there's a cottage out in the woods. There are 3 retreat rooms in the lower level here of the retreat house. With pandemic, we are scheduling everything out, having two days in between. So everything is safe. So
That was going to be one of my questions, is how has the pandemic changed?
So all of our prayers right now are Zoom. And again, at this point, groups are not meeting inside the retreat house. It needs to be outside, physical distancing. So we're following all the guidelines and just really respecting the need for the care right now until this pandemic we know a bit more about.
Mm. Yeah.
But I think spiritual direction is a really, I saw a program, it said spiritual direction, a way through pandemic. I wouldn't say it's a way through pandemic, but I would say spiritual direction becomes a really important like companion as we're living in pandemic, because pandemic has changed so many ways that we understand ourselves, so many ways we've understood community, each other. And I think spiritual direction offers the space to be able to live in to some of this uncertainty, to some of these changes, and to explore meaning in and within our experience right now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And it helps kind of take away the overwhelmingness of the situation we're in right now, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah. So of course, people, when they make appointments with you, they could either meet you outside or they could do through Zoom.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right now. We're making, so one way is changing, pathways is we are making more outdoor nooks with little chairs that are, a good 6 feet apart. And developing more outdoor space has been very helpful to think about.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, well, would you like to do a practice together?
That'd be great.
Okay. So I'm going to start us out with, I want you just to pay attention to your body. And if you can, to go ahead and put your feet flat on the floor and feel. So go ahead and feel your feet on the floor, maybe even stomp them around a little bit. And go ahead and relax into the chair. I want you to feel the support of the chair and make contact. And now move your attention to your breath. And just notice, don't change your breathing, but just notice the inhale and the exhale. And for a few moments, just follow your breath. And check in. Let's go ahead and check in with kind of the head space. Notice the quietness or the activity of your mind right now. Perhaps thoughts are floating through. And just watch them. Watch them come and watch them go. Continue to breathe in and out. And I invite you to make a little contact with kind of your heart space. And if you desire to put your hands or hand over your heart. And just notice right now kind of your mood. Any emotions that you might be having in this moment. Go ahead and relax your hands and maybe just put them face up in your lap or on your legs. Again, return to your body and your breath. And just make some contact right now that God is breathing the breath of life in you and through you. And together, we are breathing right now the breath of life and the breath of blessing. Breathing it in and breathing it out all around. And I invite you, when you're ready, to open your eyes. And to make contact, I can see you, Pastor Terry, Pastor Joshua. To make contact, there's a smile, a gaze, to recognize the divine that is alive and within all. And in a closing, I invite us to bow.
Thank you so much. You just made my day. We appreciate it. Anything else that we've not covered, Deacon Julie, that you'd like to share with others, or are we kind of good?
I would say, I guess in closing here, yeah, the support is here. It's available. Any way that we can partner with you, with your ministries, with others, we are delighted to do that. And I'd also encourage everyone to know that breath is one of your best friends. That our breath, our body, are relaxing, are allowing, are gifts that are always present to us. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Blessed.
We always close with a prayer. Can we close with the Pathways prayer, Julie? And
Sure.
Julie and I will just repeat after you like we normally do so people can join us.
Absolutely. So God before us,
God before us,
God behind us,
God behind us,
God above us,
God above us,
God beneath us.
God beneath us.
We on your path, O God.
Be on your path, O God.
You, O God, on our way.
You, O God, on our way.
In the twisting of the road,
In the twisting of the road,
in the winding of the path,
in the winding of the path.
be with us by day,
Be with us by day,
be with us by night,
be with us by night,
be with us by day and by night.
with us by day and by night.
It is so.